Hello, room 11. I felt bad we didn't get to finish our Dragon of the Red Dawn, read aloud. So I thought I'd read a chapter here for you. Hopefully, there's only a few chapters left. We can finish it up. Maybe even read the next one. This is where we left off. Jack and Annie, they fell asleep at Bashow's house. They had a nice peaceful evening working on their poetry and listening to the crickets and relaxing, and they fell asleep. And then chapter 7 starts with clang, clang, clang. Jack opened his eyes. The sound of bells filled the night, but it wasn't the gentle ringing of temple bells. It was a harsh clanging. He smelled smoke. He and Annie threw off their mosquito nets and stumbled to the door. Basho was standing in his yard, looking at the dawn sky. It was black with smoke, and the bells kept clanging. "Is there a fire?" asked Jack. "Yes," said Basho, "and it must be very big because the bells won't stop ringing. This is what I've always feared the most. I have to go and help the firefighters." "We'll help you too," said Jack. "No, you won't," said Basho. "You stay here." He pulled on his socks and sandals and then grabbed a wooden bucket by the door. "If the fire gets close, wade into the river where you'll be safe." "We want to help," said Annie. "Yeah, wait for us," said Jack. He and Annie pulled on their socks and sandals. "Come on then," said Basho, "but if the fire starts to spread, you have to promise to return to the river." "We promise," said Annie. "All right then, bring the other bucket and follow me," said Basho. "I'll get it," said Jack. He hurried into the hut and grabbed the wooden bucket by the hearth. It was heavy, even without water in it. Jack hugged the bucket to his chest and rushed outside. Jack and Annie followed Basho through the pine forest. They passed a farmhouse where 2 small children stood outside looking at the fiery sky. "Our father says the lumber yard near the river is burning," the boy shouted to Basho. "He is gone to help fight the fire," said the girl. "Great piles of wood are burning." The fire bells kept clanging as Basho, Jack, and Annie rushed past the temple and across the narrow footbridge. They hurried up the winding dirt path until they came to a shopping market. In the smoky red dawn, people were pushing carts piled high with goods. They were running away from the fire, but Basho, Jack, and Annie ran toward the fire. The air grew hotter and smokier near the tea houses and stages. Sparks flew through the sky. Tiles on the rooftop were catching fire and crashing to the ground. Basho led Jack and Annie farther through the smoke until they came to the lumber yard. The fire roared as it burned piles of logs. Flames rose high into the sky. Firefighters were passing out buckets of water up a line from the river back to the fire. Others waved huge fans, while the most daring worked with hooks and axes trying to separate the burning timber. "Help! Get the bucket brigade," Basho said to Jack and Annie. "Get the water from the river." Basho rushed to help the men beating back the fire with fans while Jack and Annie hurried down to the river. Jack filled their wooden bucket. With water inside, it was so heavy he could barely lift it. "Let's do it together," said Annie. "Right," said Jack. Using all their strength, Jack and Annie carried the bucket up the bank of the river. They stumbled along, trying not to spill the water. Jack could hardly breathe in the smoke-filled air. His throat and eyes burned, his face felt red hot, and finally, when he thought he couldn't take another step, they got to the bucket brigade. They gave their bucket to the one person at the end who gave them an empty bucket. "Go get more," he said. Jack and Annie hurried to the river with the empty bucket. They filled it with water, then struggled back up the bank. Over and over, Jack hauled the buckets of water back and forth from the river to the line of firefighters. Everyone worked hard to battle the great blaze, but the flames kept shooting into the sky. Eventually, the fire leapt over the river, and timber on the far bank began to burn. "Oh no," cried a woman. "All of Edo will catch fire now." "The rice storage houses will burn down," said a man. "The whole harvest will be destroyed." Several people were weeping. Jack felt like crying too. Right in front of his eyes, the beautiful floating world of Edo was about to go up in flames. "This is hopeless," he said to Annie. No, it's not, said Annie. The wand. We can use the wand. Of course, cried Jack. Ah, but it's in my bag back at Bashaw's house. We have to get it, said Annie. She shouted to Bashaw. Bashaw, we're gonna run back to your castle. Yeah, run for safety, said Bashaw. Go jump in the river. Right, cried Jack. Be careful, Annie shouted to Bashaw. She and Jack started running as fast as they could. They ran past the market, across the footbridge, and back to Bashaw's house. They ran inside the hut. Jack grabbed his bag, pulled the wand. He waved it through the air. Do something to make the fire stop, he shouted. Jack held his breath and waited. Let me try, said Annie. She took the wand and waved it. Stop the fire over Edo now, she shouted. Jack and Annie waited again. It's not working, cried Jack. We must be doing something wrong. But this is for the good of everyone, said Annie. I know, said Jack. And we've tried our hardest, said Annie. Everybody has. Oh, 5 words, said Jack. We have to use 5 words. Oh, right, said Annie. She waved the wand through the air again. Put out the fire, she yelled. 1 more word, shouted Jack. Please, shouted Annie. Jack and Annie were blasted by a blinding light. Jack felt himself shooting through the brightness, and then darkness, and then back into light again. An icy wind blew. The air was crystal clear. Early sunlight flashed on the rock. Jack and Annie were standing on the ledge of a mountain. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Chapter 8. I think I'm going to have to make another file for this one, so cliffhanger. Stay tuned.